My childhood wasn't lonely because I had a friend. His name was Mr. Grimes, and he lived in the crack in my bedroom wall where the wallpaper was peeling back. He wasn't imaginary. He was real. I could smell the old wool and damp soil of his coat and hear the gentle click of his pebble teeth when he whispered to me at night. He brought me things: a lost marble, a shiny 2-pound coin, a dead mouse once laid neatly on my pillow. I thought he was wonderful. When my parents fought, his whispering would grow louder, a soothing static that drowned out the shots from downstairs. He was my protector. Then we moved house. On my last night, I pressed my hand to the crack in the wall. "Goodbye, Mr. Grimes," I whispered. From the darkness within, I heard one last clear click. It wasn't a goodbye. It was a promise. I'm 34 now. I'm a historian, a rational man who deals in dates and facts, not childhood fantasies. I live in a modern flat with smooth, plastered walls. Or I did. Last week, the dreams started. Not dreams of him, but dreams from him. The same feeling of soil in my mouth, the smell of wet wool, and a single insistent thought, clear as a bell. A debt is owed. I'd wake up gasping, the taste of earth so real, I have to rinse my mouth out. I told myself it was stress, indigestion, anything but what I knew. In the primal part of my brain, it was. Mr. Grimes was knocking, and I had ignored him. The first physical sign was the mud. I came home from work on Tuesday to find a single, perfect footprint on the clean, beige carpet of my hallway. It was small, a child's size, but pressed deep as if made by something impossibly heavy. It was full of dark, loamy soil and what looked like crushed beetles. There was no path to the door, no other marks. Just that one definitive print. My blood ran cold. That was the night I stopped sleeping. I sat in my living room with all the lights on, listening. Around 3 a.m., I heard it. A faint, dry scraping, like a twig being dragged across the outside of the front door. Then, a soft, familiar click. My heart stopped. He wasn't in the walls here. He was outside. The whispers began the next night. They weren't in my dreams anymore. They were in my flat, a low, rustling murmur that seemed to come from the ventilation shaft, from the pipes, from the very space between the air molecules. It was the same soothing static of my childhood, but now it felt menacing, greedy. "I kept you safe," it hissed. "I gave you gifts. You grew strong in the silence I made for you. Interest has accrued." I found myself crying, trembling in the corner of my sofa. I was a historian, but I was facing a ledger from my own past, and the balance was coming due. What was the currency? What did he want? 2 nights ago, I saw him. I'd finally drifted into a fitful sleep, exhaustion overpowering fear. I was woken by a weight on the bed, at my feet. I opened my eyes. The room was freezing. And there, silhouetted against the streetlight, bleeding through the blinds, was Mr. Grimes. He was both exactly as I remembered and utterly, horrifically wrong. He was still small, still child-sized, but his coat was now tattered and swarmed with centipedes. His head was too large, and his face was a smooth, featureless plane, except for a mouth that opened vertically, like a crack in a cliff face, filled with those same clicking pebble teeth. He smelled of an open grave. You were my friend," I stammered, my voice a pathetic squeak. The clicking stopped. The vertical mouth didn't move, but his voice filled the room, a dry rustle directly inside my skull. "Friendship was the service. The debt is your life since. You would not have it without my quietings. I have come to collect the principal." He shifted his weight, and a long, thin arm, like a bundle of wrapped twigs, extended from his sleeve. He wasn't holding a dead mouse this time. He was holding a small, black, perfectly formed rose, its petals looking like solidified soot. He placed it on my duvet. It immediately began to smolder, burning a blackened hole through the fabric without any flame. "A reminder," he whispered. "You have until the moon is dark. Prepare the final payment." Then he was gone. The room warmed. The smell remained. The rose is still there on my floor, a hole of absolute nothingness in my world. It hasn't faded. It's a void. I know what the final payment is. It's not my life. It's my existence. He's going to take it all back. The peace, the safety, the person I became, and leave only the lonely, terrified child I was, trapped with him forever in that old bedroom. I can feel him watching from the corners of the room, from the shadows under the bed. He's in the static on my television screen, in the hum of my fridge. He is the debt, and the debt is due. So I sit here, writing this down, my last testament. I can hear the clicking starting again. It's closer now, right behind me. Tell me, have you ever had an imaginary friend? Did you ever make a promise you didn't know you were making? Look at your own childhood, at the shadows you thought were safe. Because if you remember them, they remember you. And accounts, I have learned, must always be settled. The comments section is right there. Tell me your story. Perhaps we can compare ledgers before the moon goes dark. The first time I saw the channel, I thought it was a joke, a relic. I'd been up late, cataloging old VHS tapes for the university archive, my eyes aching from the flicker of a dozen forgotten television shows. I fell asleep on the sofa, and the sound woke me, that raw, grating hiss of analog static. My telly was on, tuned to a dead channel, or what should have been a dead channel, because in the center of that chaotic gray noise was a figure. It was tall, man-shaped, but composed entirely of the same shifting static as the screen around it. It had no face, no features, just a deeper concentration of fizzing black and white. It stood perfectly still, and I knew, with a certainty that froze the blood in my veins, that it was looking at me. I fumbled for the remote, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I pressed the power button. Nothing. I wrenched the plug from the socket. The screen remained lit, the static figure unwavering. A terrible ozone and dust smell filled the room. I did the only thing I could think of. I threw a blanket over the screen and fled to my bedroom, locking the door. I told myself it was a waking dream, a trick of my exhausted mind. But in the morning, the blanket was on the floor, the screen was dark, and the plug was still out. I tried to forget it. For a week, I almost managed. Then, on Wednesday night, it happened again. The static bloomed from the dark screen while I was washing up. This time, the figure was closer. Its outline was sharper, its presence more defined. The silence in the room was absolute, as if the sound was being sucked into its form. I watched, paralyzed, as it slowly raised a hand, a limb of pure, crackling nothing, and pointed directly at me. The smell returned, thicker this time, the scent of something old and electrical burning. When it faded, I was on my knees, vomiting into the kitchen sink. I started researching. I found nothing about a rogue broadcast, but I did find others. Fragments in forgotten forums, cryptic comments on old Reddit threads, people mentioning the silent channel, the static man. Their stories always ended the same way. The last post from a user named Echo_Observer read, "It knows my name now. It's in the photographs. I'm fading." His profile was a ghost town. His every prior comment deleted, his existence scrubbed. Another, Static Jane, wrote a single, final sentence. "My mother doesn't recognize my voice on the phone." Then nothing. They weren't just dead. They were unwritten. My own erosion began subtly. A colleague at the archive asked me if I was feeling all right. "You look a bit gray around the edges, mate," he said, and laughed. I didn't laugh. In the bathroom mirror, my reflection seemed less solid, like a photograph left in the sun. My voice started to sound thin, distant, even to my own ears. I found a picture of me and my sister from last Christmas. My face was blurred, as if I'd moved while the shutter clicked. But I hadn't. I remembered standing perfectly still. Last night, I confronted it. I sat in front of the telly, a digital voice recorder in my hand, a pathetic, modern talisman against this ancient, hungry thing. As the screen lit up with that familiar, hellish snow, I pressed record. The figure was there, so close now I could see the individual points of light and dark that swarmed within its form. It didn't point this time. It simply stood, and the silence it emitted was a physical weight, pressing the air from my lungs. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice a ghost of itself. The static didn't answer. It never does. But on the recorder, when I played it back, a voice was there, buried under the hiss. It was my own voice, but from a long, long time ago, a childhood voice I barely remembered. It said just 2 words, "I'm ready," and I understand now. It doesn't kill you. It consumes your signal. It deletes your frequency from the world. It took my past first, the quiet, forgotten moments. Then it took my presence, my solidity. Now it's taking my now. I'm writing this down because it's the last thing that feels real. The words are my final broadcast. Can you hear me? Can you see these words? Or am I already just a story you think you're being told? Look at your own screen. Is it dark? Or is it just waiting? Tell me you can still see me. Please. The comments section down below is the only receiver I have left. Tell me I'm still here, before you turn away, before you forget you ever read this. I always thought the fear of being watched was a psychological thing, a paranoia. I never imagined it was a transaction. It started with the phones. Not mine, you understand, but other people's. I'd be on the bus, and the person across from me would be scrolling through their photos, and for a single frozen frame, I'd see a picture of me. Me, asleep in my bed. Me, walking home from work last Tuesday. Me, with a look of sheer terror on my face, as if I'd just seen something unimaginable. The person would always scroll past it instantly, oblivious, as if the image wasn't even there. I'd lurch forward. Wait, go back. But they'd just look at me like I was a madman. The picture was never there when they checked. I told myself it was stress. Eye fatigue. I spend too much time editing video. My own retinas are probably burned with my own face. But then I saw it on a public screen. A massive digital billboard in the city center, advertising some new brand of vodka. The scene shifted from a glamorous party to a stark, gray room. My room. My flat. There I was, on a 50-foot screen, staring into my own fridge, looking tired and confused. It lasted for 2, maybe 3 seconds. The crowd flowed around me, nobody blinking, nobody screaming. I was the only one who saw it. That's when I knew it wasn't in my head. It was in the world, and it was only for me. I became a ghost in the machine of my own life. I saw myself reflected in shop windows where I'd never been, glimpsed in the background of a news report about a place I'd never visited. These weren't recordings. The clothes were what I was wearing right then. The actions were what I was doing in that moment. It was a live feed of my life, broadcasting on a frequency only I could tune into. I stopped going out. I covered all the cameras on my devices. I lived in a self-imposed darkness, but it didn't matter. I did catch a glimpse of my terrified face on my neighbor's tablet as I passed their door. The broadcast couldn't be stopped. The climax came last night. My own television, which I hadn't used in weeks, flickered on. The screen showed my street, from a high angle, like from a security camera. I watched myself, a tiny, pathetic figure, walk down the pavement and enter my building. It was a recording from earlier that evening. I watched, heart pounding, as the video fast-forwarded. Then it slowed to real time. The me on the screen was in the flat. He was pacing. He was me, exactly 5 minutes in the past. I watched, frozen, as the me on the screen stopped and slowly, deliberately, turned to look directly into the lens of a camera I knew wasn't there. He smiled, a wide, unnatural, plastic smile that I have never, ever made. Then, the me on the screen raised a hand and pointed not at the camera in his world, but outwards, at me, sitting on my sofa. The screen went black, and from the hallway behind me, I heard my own front door open. The creak was exactly the same as in the recording. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I heard my footsteps walking towards the living room. They stopped just behind me. I could feel a presence there, smelling of my own shampoo, wearing my clothes, breathing my air. A hand, cold as static, rested on my shoulder. And a voice, my own voice, but filtered through something ancient and hollow, whispered directly into my ear. The audition is over. You got the part. Now I'm trapped. Not in my body, but outside of it. I watch him live my life. He's better at it than I ever was. He's more confident, more charming. My friends like him more. My boss is impressed. He is the upgraded version, and I am the discarded prototype, the raw footage left on the cutting room floor. I can only observe, a silent witness to my own replacement, broadcast on a private channel for an audience of one. So I have to ask you, the only person who might hear this, when you look at your screen, are you the watcher, or are you the one being watched? Look closer at the reflections. Listen harder to the silence. Is your life truly your own? The comments are below. Tell me what you see. I'll be watching. I have nothing else left to do.